So today I'd like to do a quick review on one of my very favorite pocket knives. This is a Victorinox Forester. In other words, it's a Swiss Army knife. Now I chose this one specifically. There are dozens of different kinds of Victorinox, obviously. This one is larger because I prefer larger knives. So it has a relatively large blade for a Swiss Army knife, and it just feels more like a tool to me. I use this quite a bit. So before we go into the actual features of the Forester and why I like it and why it works for me, let's talk really quick about just the craftsmanship. The materials here are really good. I've never owned a Swiss Army knife before, so I knew they were premium, but I didn't really kind of know how that would feel. This feels like a tool. Okay, they have proprietary blade steel, very, very sharp right out of the box. I've had this one for about a year and a half actually, and I've only stropped it a few times. A really positive engagement in the lock, not a lot of wiggle there. It's a really nice tool. The scales here are really strong. They don't offer a really great grip, but that's okay. Very nice. Doesn't feel like a toy at all. Altogether, this guy's about 4 inches long. I believe the blade's 3.75, something like that. A nice size knife. You can see that for some reason, it's kind of unusual that the lock goes this way, which if you're right-handed is a little bit weird, but I mean, I'm just used to it being the other way, but it's fine. So there's a primary blade. Now, most Swiss Army knives also come with some form of saw, and people are definitely divided on the utilitarianism of this at all. You know, I've never really used mine, but you can, for what it's worth. It's an incredibly high quality saw. The saw does not have a lock to it, so just kind of, you know, goes down. But essentially, if you're sawing something, you know, the pressure is going to be up anyway. You shouldn't have any problem. They say to use your saw for a fire steel. I don't know about that shit. Unless you have really good technique, it could easily come up and cut you. But yeah, nice saw. Very sharp. So this also comes with a can opener. This is different than the little keychain can openers people use, because those you draw it back towards you. This one you actually go forward. Very sharp little blade. Has a small screwdriver there as well, which I've actually used many times. On the opposite side here is a large screwdriver and a bottle opener. Now, I'll be honest with you, for me, using a fire steel, I'm much more likely to use the back of this, of the large screwdriver, because that does have a lock to it. Okay, you can file that to 90 degree. It's pretty good already, but you file it a little bit and, you know, push down that way. So I think that's a better option, in my opinion. Back here is obviously a corkscrew. I made a short recently talking about the appropriate way to use this. You can check that out. And then over here, we have like a little awl. You know, you can use this to dig into leather, which I actually have. I've used this to poke a hole in a belt recently. You can use it to dig into a piece of wood if you're trying to get started, like a bow drill, that kind of thing. It's actually, you know, pretty useful. And also it's moderately sharp here, so you can use this to open packages instead of primary blade. The one thing that is interesting though is that this does actually go back a little further than I would like it to. So when you add pressure to it, you can push it back like, shit, I mean a 1/4 inch here probably. So just throwing that out there. I don't know if that's just mine or whatever. And then obviously there are the tweezers that come standard with most Swiss Army knives. I've not had occasion to use these so far, but it's good to get out splinters and that kind of thing. And then over here is a toothpick, which I do actually use. It's nice. Yes, great. It's like a razor. Hush. Yeah, nice and sharp. Let's use the primary knife in a couple real world scenarios. Oh shit, I broke my pencil. There we go. Is it ideal to use a pocket knife to sharpen a pencil? No, but in a pinch it will work. I also like to whittle. Now granted, this is really soft wood. This is basswood. It's, you know, kind of meant for whittling. But this is a great whittling knife. You know, not bad. I mean, is it the best whittling knife in the world? No, but it'll work. A lot of people don't know this, but one of the fun things you can do with the corkscrew is use it as a handle when you're out in the woods. Say you're trying to pick up a log or something. So you can carry it by this. It'll stick really well. You can see in just a few minutes, really with my little, kind of carving project, I have a nice little tinder bundle here. This is great for that kind of thing. Is a Swiss Army knife as good as a Leatherman for a multi-tool? No, not at all. Leathermans are purpose-built to actually use for work. So this is just a really good example of, we can figure something out until we can get to the toolbox. There's very few situations that I can't slap something together with the tools I have here. But I think in general, it's a reliable tool, reliable knife. And, you can count on it for whatever that means. For food prep, for whittling, making tinder if you didn't bring any with you, or if you just like the idea of making it on the fly. You can use a saw to make notches. I mean, there's definitely a place for this in terms of bushcraft. A lot of guys carry a big knife and a small one to go with it. There's nothing wrong with this. This is great for like fine work. In terms of carrying it as an everyday tool like at work or something, sure. I feel like this really covers most of my bases that I need. This is better than nothing. Yeah, more than anything, I just want to say I'm really impressed with the quality. This feels like a tool.